Today we're going to be talking about YouTube growth, and specifically going into some of the details about how I was able to successfully grow my channel 25% month over month over the past 6 months here. And guys, this talk today is going to be specifically catered towards the people that love YouTube. You've been posting, you've been consistent, you're doing the work, but it's not working. It's not working. You feel like you're wasting time, energy, you're tired of doing it. Your wife is maybe questioning your life choices. You've been told that consistency is key. Just keep digging. It's perseverance that matters. But the reality is that the definition of insanity is trying the same thing and expecting a different result. Heck, maybe you even hired a fake guru. You know, one of those guys that has millions of subscribers but gets 10 likes on a video and no comments. Maybe they're out there. Because I've been there, guys. I've been there. And today we're going to break that cycle. Today it ends. Today it ends. Today it ends. And as you can see here, I've recorded a lot of videos on this one channel. I manage multiple channels. But over the past 7.5 years, I've produced 1,800 videos on this channel. And what's been completely shocking is looking at the channel lifetime versus what's happened for me personally over the last 6 months. And I'm hoping that this next 6 months looks like this for you too. That is my goal. I mean, look at these numbers. Look at stagnancy and then huge spike over the last 6 months. What do the numbers actually look like here? It looks like in the past 6 months, over 25% of total views happened in the last 6 months. 40% of my watch time happened in the last 6 months. Look at the subscribers. 38% of my total subscribers happened in the last 6 months. 70% of revenue past 6 months. And none of this is paid. There's no paid traffic. There's no bots. This is all organic. All organic, okay? And then today, I'm gonna share my top 15 lessons. We're gonna move quick, top 15 lessons. And my hope for you, for each and every one of you, is that you can see some things that I did and say, huh, that idea can apply to me. So the first place I want to start, does that sound good to y'all? Does that sound good? 15 tips, let's go. So the first thing that I did was I changed my format. Now, I've tried all sorts of different formats. I've done kind of screen share types formats. I've done the talking head in the vlog style. I've done interviews. That's my man Neil Patel there. I had Pat Flynn on my podcast multiple times. We tried all sorts of different formats, but what really changed for me was when we got real. And I started doing walk and talk videos. Now you might say, well, I don't really want to do walk and talk, and that's okay, that's fine. But the reality is if your channel isn't growing, we got to change it up. We've got to try different things. And by the way, this setup I have here, a cell phone, a $20 selfie stick, and I started with some $20 earbuds. It doesn't cost a lot of money to just try something new. Okay, and a quick story on this. The first 3 or 4 days that I tried this, I didn't see much change, and I was kind of thinking, like, is this worth it? Should I keep trying the same thing? On the 5th day, I had a video that popped. I woke up in the morning. You guys ever had that feeling where you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, we had a video pop, and that happened. I said, okay, we might have something here, and the rest is history. The second thing that I learned was we need more at-bats. You know, one video a week, it's really hard to get any sort of meaningful, statistically significant data off of one video a week. You're not getting enough at bats. And so what I ended up doing with these walk-in talks is it requires almost zero editing. Almost zero editing. I prepare what I'm going to talk about, I have my talking points, and I go from there. I'm not doing any repurposing of the videos. All that repurposing, we got to put this on LinkedIn, we got to put it on Instagram. I cut it all out. I said, we're going to focus on YouTube, and I simplified my thumbnails tremendously. I'm not hiring or using AI products. I just pop in a very, very simple thumbnail. And what this allowed me to do is, in the marketing world, we call this setting a baseline. We set a baseline for, if I was to continue to do the same thing, what do my numbers look like now? You know, we need, you know, in the scientific world, we call this having a control. You need a control. You need something, a baseline, a control with which to run experiments on. And because we're pumping out lots of content very quickly, we're able to start experimenting more quickly, okay? And so what I was really looking to set a baseline for is, these are probably 3 of the most important parameters to look at, but reasons I love YouTube is that the data and the analytics go really deep. But these are three of the things that I really focused on: was how many views am I getting on a video when I try something, what's my thumbnail click-through rate, and almost most importantly is what's my watch percentage, how long am I keeping people engaged. And there's some viewer psychology that I've worked on in my intros that have completely transformed the way I'm able to engage and keep people watching. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Hold that thought, okay? So again, what we want to do, what I did is once I was able to create a baseline, I was able to start running tests against that baseline. And so what you see here is that during the beginning of the year, from January to June, I was able to create my baseline. I'm getting about two minutes and change of view duration. I'm getting about 5.4% click-through rate, 40K views, about 300,000 impressions, okay? And what this allowed me to do is start to run some different tests. So for example, has anyone tried A/B testing your YouTube thumbnails? Okay. I want to highlight this because this is something that I really made a mistake on when it comes to A/B testing thumbnails. I would try two completely different thumbnails. Everything was different. And the problem is, at the end of the month, you can't actually tell what's different. What we need to do, what I did was say, well, I'm just going to test something very small. So you'll see over here, this at the top left, 43% of the watch time versus 57% of the watch time. The only thing that changed here, can anyone tell what changed here? Seth? The color. We found that just changing that color slightly resulted in a statistically significant change in the click-through rate. Something that small. That I was blown away. We also see that just by moving in the bottom right here, can anyone see the change there? A little more obvious. We just changed the way that the words are formatted. So again, we're able to A/B test that over the course of a few weeks to see if we can find something statistically significant. I was talking to, I think, Ben back there in the hallway. I was thinking, like, well, maybe we should just test putting a girl in a bikini versus me and see which performs better. Anyone have an opinion there, a hypothesis? Anyone have a hypothesis what'll perform better? I do. Anyway, by making these changes, we can see that we had a combined increase of 22 time multiple in watch time. And that is big, guys. That is what YouTube wants. They want you to keep people on the platform. We were able to go from 220 to 425. Average view duration. You also see the click-through rate increase from not as big, but guys, when you're increasing your impressions from 300K to 6 million, those small percentages start to add up, and small percentages start to multiply. There's this idea that if I could just be 1% better a day, I can have compounding results. Einstein said compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world. I tend to think he's right. Anyway, let's continue. Okay, number 4, we're going to look for trends. And no matter what your niche is, I found that if I can find what's trending on X, what's trending in the keywords, what everyone's talking about, maybe there's a viral video, how can I put that through the lens of my channel? And my channel focuses on AI, employment, how the job force is being impacted by this tremendous new technology. And now I can start to put everything that's happening globally, everything that's trending through that lens. And that's how, my friends, we go from 300K impressions to 6 million impressions. We start to factor in what people are typing into the second largest search engine in the world. Number 5, we've got to look at what's working. What is working? And so when I go into my Creator Studio, I can see, okay, what are the videos that have an above typical intro? Has anyone looked at this stuff before? Are we looking at this? Love it. I see 2 or 3, maybe 4 hands. This is really important. And the reason why I wasn't looking at this before is I wasn't getting enough at-bats. I wasn't getting enough impressions. I didn't have a control set up. So by setting that stuff up, by giving yourself more at-bats and more reps, all of a sudden, this data starts to tell a story. And that story is really what was a crucial part of growing on YouTube. This next point, number 6, is I think an important part that I found in viewer psychology. I found that people are much more likely to click on videos that were fear and pain based rather than pleasure based. People are, in my experience through these tests, are more likely to make decisions to avoid pain rather than get to pleasure. Okay, and this is just one example, which is pretty stark. I show Amazon just fired 14,000 corporate employees. We have 18,000 views on that, versus ChatGPT AI search is hot. 427 views. And this is just one of the stark examples, but I would just encourage everyone, when you're thinking about how to package on YouTube and on social media and your emails and your marketing, people are going to respond to pain. We're wired that way, at least in what I've found. That said, when you start posting negativity, when you start posting pain, you're going to get hurt people. People are going to start coming into your channel, and I definitely found this out. You know, I just attracted negativity. One of the things that I found, and I'm not necessarily highly political on this, although AI does have some politics involved. What I found is the more I talked about how bad the economy was and how bad the employment was, I got a bunch of people coming in saying how much they hate Trump and Trump ruined everything. I was like, well, not to get into that, but that's not really what the channel is about. The channel is about this profound technology coming in and changing the way that we work in the world. So regardless, I found that negativity attracts negativity, and part of YouTube is you want to build a tribe of people with shared values. I'm an optimist about technology, but we need to wake people up. So anyway, that's where I come from there. Also worth noting, kind of related to number 7, more views brings more haters. I'll give you an example. Just this morning I woke up, I was like, how did my video do yesterday? Did I get the views that I was expecting? And the first thing I saw on my Android phone was a notification from a comment that said, this video brings no value, you should quit. And right, so that's what I got to wake up to. So you got to be ready for that. I interviewed James Altucher on a podcast a few years ago, and he made the point where, Mark, if I'm not scared I'm going to make people upset, if I'm not scared what people think, I'm not even going to write it. Okay, and I also saw a post from the lead of creative design over at YouTube, and he made the point that, like, if you're not getting any haters in your comments, you're doing something wrong. You have to embrace the hate in a way, because what's happening when you're getting the haters is it means YouTube's expanding your reach, it's expanding your audience, you're reaching new people. And I was talking to someone in the hallway earlier. Generally, I just silo it. It doesn't really bother me. But every once in a while, you're like, come on. That one could get you down. So just be aware, if you are serious about growing on YouTube, this is part of the game. It will happen. If it's not happening, then you're something's wrong. You're not reaching the new audiences that you need. All right. Number 9, understanding your audience. And this sounds pretty obvious. It's really important. Going into the comments, engaging with people, super, super crucial. I was able to find new topics that I find, well, everyone's always talking about this topic. Maybe I'll start talking about H-1B visa programs too. So I educate myself, I give feedback, I get feedback from them. H-1B visa program is a pretty big deal when it comes to jobs here in America, abroad, AI. I hadn't really considered it as much until I saw everyone talking about it. So I speak with them, I get book recommendations, article recommendations, and it resulted in a video here about H-1Bs. People were talking about H-1Bs, I posted a video, I had 23,000 views. Not bad. When you start rinsing, and repeating, you can start to see you're attracting your tribe, whoever your tribe is. Just keep in mind, if we're not listening to the comments, we're not going to have ideas for videos. And again, this still comes back to one of our initial points here is, in order to get ideas, you need to have people engaging. Paying for fake subscribers and fake bots ain't gonna give you the idea for your next video, right? You need to get real at-bats, you need to get real people, real organic reach. So following those first steps is gonna start to get you down the line. And again, speak with them, engaging with them, I find brings them back. YouTube has a nice little place where it shows who your most engaged viewers are. And this kind of brings us to the next level of like speaking to them. Has anyone here, and you don't even have to show your hand, but if you want to, you can. Do you ever start your video with like, "What's up, everybody?" It doesn't hit. It doesn't hit. My channel is more focused towards males, ages 35 to 45, okay? And why do I do that? After posting videos, I go into my demographics, I see 90.6% of my viewers are male. Why would I be trying to speak to everyone? And I have gotten comments on my channel, well, why AI impacts women too? Why aren't you speaking to the women? I said, listen, I love women. I've been married for over 10 years. I've got a young daughter. I love women. I know women that have AI channels for women. Nothing wrong with that. But your channel needs to speak to your people. Your people. Okay. Also worth noting here some other things. Where is your audience coming from? You can see a pretty large amount of audience from India. So I'm going to speak to my Indian brothers over there as well. Listen to their needs. Post videos that impact India. I was talking to Marcus a little bit in the hallway about that. There's data there to show, and that's why those videos tend to do well, because I'm speaking to that audience. And I think this is also really important to understand. What are the other channels that your audience is watching? Where is that traffic coming from? That's another place where I'm able to get clues about what I want to speak about and how I might want to format my videos. All right. Everyone with me? I know I'm covering a lot. Everyone with me here? All right. Something that I have very much discounted over the years is the viewer psychology. I think, oh, well, the audience is just going to do what I want them to do. Right? They're going to click here and they're going to watch here and then they're going to click this and they're going to, I know what they're going to do. People don't do that. People do what they do, okay? And understanding the psychology and the ways to speak in your intros in particular are absolutely vital. Absolutely vital. So I want to talk a little bit about intro psychology, and if you have heard nothing I've said so far, this is probably some of the most important applicable stuff we're about to cover here. And I just want to cover the power of but. Whew. Man, when I learned this, I had a huge takeoff in my intro retention, A. And B, I started seeing great speakers do this. They think comedians do this. Anyone ever see a comedian do this? You think they're taking you one way, and then they end up taking you somewhere else. This is a really, really key point. And so I will start videos off, I don't want to really go too in depth on this, but because anyway, the power of but is very important. So I will start a video off like, Microsoft just laid off 15,000 people, but it's what they didn't tell you that's really going to impact your job and your career. But, and then we'll continue to create those open loops of but, because they're like, they think as soon as you know what a video is about, you're clicking off, you're going somewhere else. But if we can throw them off kilter, if we can throw in that little word, you'll keep people engaged longer. I encourage you, no matter your channel, just using the word but more will, and I'm not talking about going to a club late night, we're talking about in our YouTube video. I know some people are going to misinterpret that on YouTube. But the more you say but, the better my videos performed, okay? And I want to go just one level deeper onto this open loop idea. So another thing that I like to do in my intros, in fact, you may have noticed it, some of my more acute audience members may have noticed this. In the beginning of our talk here today, I said, we'll get to that in a moment. That creates an open psychological loop that we just have to itch. I can't leave now. He's going to get to it in a second. This is going to be the most important. This is going to be the thing that changes your life, but we'll get to that in just a moment. First, this is the type of stuff that keeps people listening another 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe even to the end. But we pepper that in. I started peppering that in to more and more often. Guys, this is not just the very beginning. You just start peppering this in to your each and everyday comments. Okay? Authority. I want to talk for a second about authority because this is obviously very important. This is another thing that I start peppering into all my intros, and this has killed. It has absolutely killed. I'll say, because the reality is, most people that land on my channel have never seen me. They've never heard about me. They don't want to listen to me giving a 2-minute bio about what qualifies me to speak on the topic. But if I can borrow what Bill Gates said about data center construction in India, well, then I have some more authority. I've essentially borrowed the authority. This "but don't take my word for it" is really big. But don't take my word for it. Just go watch Think Media and listen to Sean Cannell, because what he says is bop, bop, bop. Does that make sense? That makes sense? This idea of borrowing authority has been very, very big. And by the way, I specifically have seen in my data, in my views, when I don't use this, I have a much larger drop off. So strongly encourage that. Common enemy in conflict. This is something that maybe I'm 42. Maybe I picked this up too late in life, but this moves mountains. This moves everything from sports. Oh, we hate the Patriots. I'm a Dolphins fan, so Tom Brady and the Patriots. We could get together against not liking the Patriots, right? Business. Where are my Android folks at? Where are my Androids at? We don't like Apple too much, right? Forget the iPhone with your weird chat bubbles and your weird chargers. You know what I'm saying? That's what. See? That's what, but. All right, that's what I'm talking about. We're listening. And then, clearly in politics, this is a big deal. But you can do this on your channel too. You have to bring people together against your common enemy, whatever it is. It's laziness, it's whatever. And this can be done obviously for positive and for good, or it can be done for great, terrible things, as we've seen in history as well. All right. Regardless, understanding this concept of who is the common enemy we can come together against Apple users. Let's talk just a moment in these few ideas about building momentum. So there's this idea of adding cards to your videos. Okay. Is everyone familiar with this idea of adding cards to videos? So, does anyone use vidIQ in here? vidIQ too, buddy? So in vidIQ, it says it has like this grade. You get a certain grade for checking off all the boxes. And one of those boxes is adding cards to old videos. And so historically, what I had did and what my team had done is we would just add cards. vidIQ says to add cards, we'll just add cards. We'll add a card here, we'll add a card there. Everybody gets a card, okay? That's not what the cards are for. The cards are specifically there so that we realize that we say, hey, we actually talked about this in a video a few days ago. You can go check that out right here. Check out that link. And that creates momentum throughout your channel. I'm almost embarrassed to say that I wasn't doing this before. This should seem very, very obvious, but I want to highlight it because I went 7 years without doing this, and this is table stakes. Referencing previous videos. Being thoughtful about what are my next 10 videos, 20 videos going to look like, and how can I intermingle them. This is really important, by the way, not just for YouTube, but if you have a blog, if you have a newsletter, interweaving your concepts and your blogs together with backlinks is very, very important. I don't know how else to say it. This is important, okay? And then lastly, we want to keep them going. And everyone probably knows the end screen. What you probably are not doing, like I was not doing, is understanding what is that end screen going to be? What is that end screen actually going to be? And if you go into the video understanding, at the end of my video, I'm going to reference another video, much like the cards, you can start to generate momentum in traffic. And this is how we turn someone that watches one episode of Game of Thrones into someone that's watching the entire freaking season the night before Podfest starts. Not me. Now, I just want to add one more bonus tip here. And because this is something that I didn't think about a lot. I talked a little bit about I want to be thoughtful about my end screen. We want to be just as thoughtful about the thumbnail, title, and intro to our video before we hit record. And I recognize that this is a really difficult thing to do when you're doing interviews because you don't know where the interview is going to go. But let me tell you something. understanding the curiosity that your thumbnail is going to create, the clarity that your description is going to create, and then the confirmation that your intro creates is absolutely vital to your YouTube channel. You need the 3 C's: curiosity, clarity, confirmation. And then once you've got them, if you can get someone to watch that first 3 seconds and you follow the rule of but, the conflict, the speaking to your desired audience, that is what led to my success. It's all about understanding that viewer psychology. And I want to bring it all the way back to the very top of the discussion here today. You probably recognize Mr. Beast, biggest YouTuber in the world, right? He in an interview recently was asked the question, hey, do people ever ask you how to grow on YouTube, and what do you say? Has anyone heard this before? Well, Jen back there. He said, I tell someone to go record 100 videos and make each video better than the last. That is what consistency looks like. Consistency isn't recording the 100 videos. The consistency is just being a little bit better. I'm just going to be consistently a little bit better than the last. That is how we need to rethink consistency. That's how I'm rethinking consistency. And if I plan on executing all this to the next level over the next 6 months, so the next 6 months is better than the last. And I hope that your next 6 months mirrors something like this, because it is possible if you follow these frameworks. Boom. Boom. I'm excited for you guys. I'm very excited for you. You've got great things ahead. Very excited. Very excited. Do we have any questions? Do we have any time for questions? Sure. Yes. Yeah, so the question is tech stack, and I'll just break this down real quick. I use AI, X, Reuters. I use different news platforms to research and find out what I want to talk about. I lay out my key talking points. I think about my intro before I hit record, like we talked about, right? As far as tech stack, I have a selfie stick. I have a $200 Rode wireless mic. And that's about it. I probably will upgrade that. I've been looking at a $500 DJI mic, but that's the I'm just recording in the native video app on my smartphone. That's it. Super lightweight. By the way, I have a $1,000 camera. I've got lenses. I've got all this gear. At least for me, I want to keep it light. I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it fast. I want lots and lots of reps, right? And then maybe, by the way, I started off, I was just using earbuds. People said, your audio isn't that great. Boom. Upgrade. One more question. I've got sir here. I'll be in the hallway to answer more questions, of course.
Did I need a mic to ask the question? Would that help? For recording, we always ask that, right? Here's a question. I do a 2-hour music live stream 7 days a week. There we go. I do a 2-hour music live stream 7 days a week. I get an average of 100 viewers every day. A couple days ago, our internet went out, and I had to use my iPhone instead of going through eCam on my Mac. And I didn't have time to put a thumbnail. I didn't have a time to put any description. And woe be, after 1 hour, we had 1,500 viewers. Woo. Why did that happen?
Woo. Well, the short answer would be I'm not sure. We'd have to go into the back end. We have to go into analytics. We'd have to see one of the first things I would look at is I'd pull up that specific live stream and I would just open up the analytics and see where did my traffic come from. It's possible. I had a video that really popped off. This is a quick funny story. I had a video where I was talking about China's AI impact and how I'm not super comfortable with people using AI DeepSeek platform, which is their, I don't know what they're doing with my data, right? What I found was I started getting a ton of comments telling me how great China is, and China's amazing, you gotta visit China, we love China, Xi Jinping is great, and I was like, this is weird. So I went to my analytics. It turns out that the vast majority of my traffic was coming from WhatsApp. Okay, so that would be the first thing. Where's the traffic coming from? I would check there. But it all comes down to the analytics, and by the way, that's a great example of, let's try something different. Let's just try something different, and then see if we can treat it scientifically. Can we repeat that success? Can we repeat it? Yeah.